We actually, when you finally like get to talk to your parents about all the things that you've like been meaning to, like you make your own paycheck so you don't like hold anything back. My dad and I just actually had that conversation, maybe like 2 weeks ago, which was pretty big for me because I think that was weighing on me for a while. But he's a little angry, and I definitely see some of him in me, and I hate that because I didn't really like him growing up. And
what part of him do you see in yourself that you dislike?
So I call them my sneezes, like behind closed doors. A lot of the times I'll like get angry at stuff and I can't hold it in because it's like what I grew up with. Like holding in angry emotions were not a thing that happened in my family with my dad. And so I see that in me, and mine's definitely not as bad as my dad's, but because it's so similar in the sense where I like get really angry, you can't, whatever. And then I like sneeze and then it's gone. So I don't really like hold those grudges. It's just that because I can get so angry and because I can't really control my emotions, it makes me feel really guilty, I guess is the word for it.
But let me ask you, can you tell us, like, paint us a little bit of a picture, or do any memories stand out? And once again, we want to acknowledge for a moment that this is just an isolated memory. It sounds like you're, for the most part, like you said, first and foremost, that you were a happy kid. And so it sounds like your parents did a wonderful job, and they're like actually awesome parents, but no one's perfect. The reason I'm going to ask you a little bit about your dad is more because you see that part inside of you. So maybe we can understand a little bit about how to deal with that anger. Is it okay if I ask you to tell us a little bit about like memories from interactions that you had with your dad? Okay.
Right as you said memories, like I so vividly have this in my mind.
Perfect. That's what we want.
Yeah, it was around Christmas. I remember because we were sitting next to the Christmas tree, and I don't exactly remember what happened or what led to this. I actually think it was a pretty big turning point in my life. But my dad, I ended up talking back, and my dad ended up calling me a bitch. And I remember being like, my dad just called me a bitch. Like, you can't do that. Like, you should just not do that. And I remember like screaming at him, and I was like, you have no idea how your words affect people. And I'm like 16 and you're calling me a bitch. And I'm like, how do you think this is going to make me feel? Like, do you think I'm going to forget this? And I remember specifically like, what? Okay, sorry. Can you hear that? My cat is rumbling its tongue. I'm so sorry. Honey, please stop. I remember because it was the time that I had talked back. Like, I had finally stood up for myself, and he called me a bitch because of it. And so it was really scarring, but also like an awakening where I was like, no matter what I say, he's just not going to like that I am talking back, I think.
It's interesting because I think I'm getting a little bit more context of why changing your hair is so empowering. Right? Because you kind of say that for a long time you used to like be what people wanted you to be, and now you're being a little bit more of yourself. Mm-hmm. And what I'm hearing is that, you were taught that being yourself is not okay.
I definitely was taught to behave. And yeah. Like, I would definitely... it's like I would just it was like walking around eggshells or whatever that saying is that I'm not familiar with, but
walking on eggshells.
It was very much that, like, one thing could blow up an entire situation. So it was a lot of just kind of minding my own business, trying to lay low, not bring attention to myself, kind of thing.
And what kind of things would set your dad off?
Not washing a dish, saying something, changing his iPad wallpaper. It could be anything.
And what would he say if you changed his iPad wallpaper?
Oh, this happened to my brother changed his iPad wallpaper, but it was the end of the world. Don't touch my shit, and it's disrespectful. How would you like it if I touched your shit? took all the clothes out of my brother's closet, threw them over the banister. Just kind of ridiculous. Yeah. But I think he knows it's ridiculous. I like had the conversation with him. I'm like, you're ridiculous. You're a ridiculous man. And he was, so I pretty much had the conversation with him that I was like, why do you need to like lash out at people when you're angry? And we had a conversation about my brother, because I think a lot of why my brother is the way that he is because of my dad, of course. And it was like, you hurt people when you're angry. And I'm like, do you mean to do that? And he's like, yeah. How is anybody going to know that I'm angry if I don't like say these words, like hurtful, meaningful words? And I was like, how? I'm so sorry, like for the environment that you must have grown up in, where you feel like you had to lash out at people for them to even hear you, because that's just not normal. And I was telling my dad, I'm like, in any friendship that I have right now, if I was to be like, hey, you stupid bitch, I hate when you do that, they're gonna be like, okay, I'm not going to be friends with you, because why do I need that in my life? And he didn't really, I mean, we kind of got to a consensus, and he was like, okay, like I get it, but I don't know if it really like resonated with him. I think it was the only time in his life that anyone has ever talked to him about that.